Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Steelers Read and React Offseason Blueprint, Parrish's version. As promised, Steelers Read and React is back this week with our second of two mock offseasons to kick off the column's return. This time around, Ryan Parrish will be taking control of the Steelers and implementing his vision for the team through free agency, the draft, trades, and all other aspects of roster management. Like Ryan did last week, Ryland Bickley will be emceeing the process and also asking questions about the plan. The same rules apply as last week. It's important to note these are not meant to be predictions of what the Steelers will do, but rather what we would do if given full control and final say over Pittsburgh's roster. Also, this exercise won't be covering coaching changes as the real-world window for that is more or less closed. With the details out of the way, let's take a look. The Steelers have been doing a delicate dance for a few years now of trying to rebuild their roster without bottoming out. The quarterback position remains at the core of their struggles, but as Ryland pointed out last week, this offseason doesn't provide an easily attainable path to finding one. Beyond quarterback, the Steeler defensive line needs some revitalization. Cam Hayward is in the twilight of his career, and Larry Ogunjobi has been mostly disappointing and is projected to be a cap casualty by most analysts. The Steelers have the cap space to retain him if they wish, but I'm prioritizing getting reps for my younger players and finding a nose tackle so we can get Keanu Benton back to his more natural position. Wide receiver is another glaring need, though the free agent class is a little underwhelming. Elsewhere on the roster, the offensive line is still a work in progress. A core philosophy I have about team building is it never hurts to keep adding linemen. Additionally, the secondary needs a running mate for Joey Porter Jr. and an upgrade at nickel. Outside linebacker remains the team's most obvious strength, but an upgrade to that fourth spot on the depth chart is always welcome. Overall, I still hope for the development of some young players from the previous two drafts. I will prioritize getting young players reps where possible this year, especially on offense. However, I want to use every tool available to Pittsburgh, so I will also look for upgrades in free agency for a few position groups. That said, I think the Steelers will soon need to take a long look in the mirror and admit it's time for bold action. In my view, there are two paths the Steelers could take, and both will require commitment and resolve from the front office. Choice 1, admit this team isn't close to a Super Bowl and hit the franchise reset button by moving off from some aging veterans. This would be painful. TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, they'd all have to go. The Steelers would have to take their lumps and suffer Tomlin's first losing season, but the goal would be to lose enough games to draft highly in next year's quarterback class, a class that could include Arch Manning. If Tomlin still grinds out more wins than expected, hopefully the Steelers got some tradable assets when they moved their vets, or they'll have to reach into future drafts to facilitate a trade-up. Choice 2, view 2025 as another bridge season, but use this offseason to position themselves for a QB in 2026. I know the 10-win seasons and early playoff exits are driving us fans crazy, but we've seen worse rosters around the NFL turn into contenders once the right quarterback is in place. Just look at the Commanders. In theory, if the Steelers build a deep roster before landing their quarterback, it would increase that QB's chance at success and competing for titles. For my money, I expect the Steelers to go with choice 2. I think the Steelers are actually in a prime position to have their cake and eat a little too, so let's use that choice as well to frame our actions in this exercise. That means I'm looking to create future cap space, find a few foundational players in free agency and the draft, and prepare for a run at quarterback in 2026, whether that comes via draft or trade. Keep in mind there are no projected big-name QBs with their contracts up in 2026. Shocking QB slide has Steelers landing franchise signal caller in latest mock draft. Well, this would be unexpected. After Pittsburgh Steelers fans have come to the reality that this franchise will run it back with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields in 2025, Dane Brugler drops a bombshell on us in his first NFL mock draft following the NFL Combine. With the 21st overall pick in the draft, Brugler has the Steelers rushing to turn their card in for Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. This would be quite a surprise for a team that is running out of options. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a wild card in this draft, Brugler wrote via The Athletic. He could go in the top 6 or fall out of the first round entirely, and neither outcome would be a shock. He is not a first-round quarterback for a lot of NFL teams, which isn't a major surprise, and matches my evaluation. But all it takes is one front office to roll the dice on his skill set. If Sanders falls out of the top 10, this would be an interesting landing spot, Brugler continued. The Steelers are searching for answers at the QB position. Nearly every mock draft from a respected source that has come out since the end of the college football season had Shedeur Sanders landing inside the top 10, even going number 1 overall in some mocks. Now Brugler, one of the most respected draft analysts in the business, believes Sanders could be ripe for the picking for Pittsburgh. Ironically, Brugler had the Giants trading up to the first overall pick in the NFL draft to land Miami quarterback Cam Ward. While most fans don't believe the gap between Ward and Sanders is significant, it's apparent that NFL teams may feel the opposite. But if 20 teams are willing to pass on arguably the best quarterback in college football, the Pittsburgh Steelers will gladly pick up the pieces. Sanders is far from a perfect prospect. During his 2 seasons as the starting quarterback for the Colorado Buffaloes, Sanders took a whopping 94 sacks while throwing 10 interceptions in 2024. Additionally, Sanders doesn't possess elite arm talent or mobility. He's not a runner, as evidenced by his -127 career rushing yards, and he lacks the velocity to consistently drive the ball to the sidelines. Steelers reported to be interested in Giants receiver in free agency. The Pittsburgh Steelers will enter the 2025 season with another unproven or uninspiring passer under center. Maybe it's one of 2024 starters in Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, or a middling free agent like Sam Darnold or Jameis Winston. A portion of the fan base is pulling for a rookie quarterback early in April's NFL draft. Whomever it may be, they'll likely continue the Steelers' tradition of quarterback purgatory. But that hasn't halted the expectation of winning football in Pittsburgh, which demands that general manager Omar Khan revamps his roster with the hopes of elevating a mediocre passer. Subsequently, the Steelers are reported to be interested in New York Giants receiver Darius Slayton in free agency. According to a source close to the situation, the Steelers are expected to have interest in Slayton in free agency, Noah Strackbine wrote for Sports Illustrated. The 28-year-old had a career low of just 573 yards and 2 touchdowns this past season, but as the Giants struggled to find success at quarterback, many around the league viewed their wide receiver core as talented but lacking the help they needed. Slayton isn't the star fans have been pining for since the trade market heated up ahead of the 2024 season, but he's another downfield perimeter threat who can attack on the play-action shots offensive coordinator Arthur Smith prefers. To his credit, he's been a model of consistency during his 6 seasons in New York. In 4 of his first 5 seasons, he saw between 700 and 800 yards. In 2024, the quarterbacking truly fell off, leaving him with just 573 yards and 2 scores on 71 targets. Slayton has scored just 13 touchdowns since finding the end zone 8 times as a rookie in 2018, but the shape of his production has remained relatively stable, albeit at the whims of inconsistent quarterback play. Pittsburgh knows what it'd be getting in Slayton, a boundary-deep threat with the occasional case of the drops and an encouraging locker room presence. Perhaps pairing him with Pickens off the field is as important as doing so between the sidelines, where Slayton can take advantage of his teammates' gravity. However, 2 aspects of the fit are cloudier than simply needing a receiver. Slayton is most comfortable in a similar role to Pickens, And he'll likely be looking for proven, quality quarterback play. The Steelers, of course, can't guarantee that. But with a healthy cap situation, they may be able to quiet those concerns with cash. And you, fan? What do you think about the situation of Darius Slayton? Write to us in the comments.